Hi everyone, my name is Maxime Vincent. I'm the VP of Engineering at Final Mouse, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's keynote and reveal event. Today we will be unveiling our new generation of the UltralightX, the ULX competition. We will start by taking you through an in-depth and exciting how it's made video, where we showcase every step of how an UltralightX is made at our factories, from the processing of the carbon fiber all the way to final assembly. Afterwards, we will reveal the ULX competition and dive into the engineering keynote. We're excited to showcase everything we've been working on and hope you all enjoy.
Nearly a decade ago, we introduced lightweight mice to the gaming industry. Back then, we'd achieved a modest 70 grams, but what's interesting is that many competitors, critics, and even gamers were quick to say that 70 grams was too light and that the ideal weight for an esports mouse should be at least 90 grams. Fast forward a few years to when we launched a 58 gram mouse. Once again, the initial reaction from our competitors was that 50 grams was far too light and that the ideal weight for an esports mouse is between 70 and 80 grams. A couple more years went by and, well, I think you get the idea. Today, our competitors like to spread the false notion that 50 to 60 grams is the ideal weight range for an esports mouse, all the while scrambling to catch up in weight. But the science tells us there's no such thing as too light, and history seems to agree. Let's dive into some math and finally clear up why lightweight mice are objectively better for performance. We're sure many of you have heard of Newton's second law of motion and the famous equation force equals mass times acceleration. While it's true that this equation is significant in the discussion of lightweight mice, to truly illustrate the objective benefits, we need to go a little deeper and use a set of 5 kinematic equations that are rooted in the fundamental laws of motion. These equations are referred to as the Suvat equations, and they describe the motion of objects in a straight line. So let's assume we have 3 mice. One weighs 35 grams, that will be our ULX. The second weighs 65 grams, and the third weighs 95 grams. Assuming equal friction and force, we want to see how long does it take for each mouse to be swiped across a 300mm mouse pad. First, we need to find the acceleration using Newton's equation. Now that we have the acceleration for each mouse, we'll use the second Suvat equation and solve for time. Since the initial velocity is 0, the equation simplifies to t equals the square root of 2 times the displacement divided by the acceleration. Let's see what that gives us. Amazingly, the 35 gram ULX reached its target 16.7 milliseconds faster than the 65 gram mouse and 29.7 milliseconds faster than the 95 gram mouse. Let's think about how big a gap that is between each mouse. Even the difference between the ULX and a 65 gram mouse, which many consider to still be super light, is massive. 16.7 milliseconds of latency is the equivalent of playing on a West Coast game server when you live on the East Coast. Another way to put this is even if you used a mouse from 30 years ago, you wouldn't add this much motion latency. Now, of course, this is a theoretical simulation with constant variables. In real life, a gamer could compensate by applying more force and even adjusting the friction of the surface with different mouse pads. But the fact remains that even in all of these scenarios, a heavier mouse will still require more force to maneuver, which will add strain to your grip and thus negatively impact your aim. Even just looking at the thousands of times a player can pick up a mouse during a gaming session, after each swipe and every flick, this adds exponential amounts of fatigue, which negatively impacts your aim. So no matter which way you look at it, the science is pretty clear. There's no such thing as too light. This new generation of the UltralightX, the ULX competition, we are as light as ever, but with new features designed specifically for the competitive tournament player. Through meticulous mechanical engineering and optimization of our carbon fiber composite chassis, we were able to implement solid, non-honeycomb sides for the main cage without compromising even a single gram of our industry-leading weight. Solid sides is a feature many competitive and professional players have been requesting for some time. The areas where your fingers touch the mice need to feel natural and unencumbered. By making sure there's no tactile distraction when you grip your mouse, the ULX competition provides a natural, more direct feeling that's better for your aim, all while keeping the ULX in the 30-gram range. We kept the honeycomb geometry on the top of the mouse as there's little to no tactile sensation in the palm area, and the reduced contact surface between your palm and the chassis in this region improves airflow. This reduces instances of sweaty or clammy hands, which can negatively affect your aim and comfort. The ULX competition still features our cutting-edge carbon fiber composite chassis. Only this time, we've developed new coating technologies that allow us to showcase the raw carbon fiber composite in all its glory. In the debut livery of the ULX competition, you'll be able to appreciate the nuances of the carbon fibers flowing through the material, all while experiencing enhanced grip and durability through our new UV matte clear coat process. We also have a few component improvements coming to the ULX competition. The scroll wheel encoder has been upgraded to a TTC Gold dust-proof encoder, which features a lubed stop wheel that results in a smoother feeling and longer lasting encoder. Additionally, the left and right switches in the ULX competition will feature the same custom spec'd and super bend guano blue shells that we utilized in the ULX Pro series. The ULX competition will come in 3 sizes, just as before. Only this time, the naming conventions have been changed to more accurately represent the sizes. Going forward, the large size has been renamed the Classic size. This was done for several reasons. 1, it is our original Classic shape, and 2, it's the most standard shape out of the 3 sizes. Gamers that are coming from other standard-sized options will find that the Classic is most comparable to other popular claw and palm grip focused mice in the market. And with claw grips being the most widely used by competitive players in today's esports scene, we wanted to emphasize that our Classic size is the most universal. The other 2 sizes will be referred to as medium and small. The medium is more of a modern medium size that caters to fingertip and relaxed claw grips. We call it a modern medium because several years ago, the medium size would have been considered a mini or a small size. But with trends slowly gravitating towards smaller size mice and more fingertip-focused aiming, the medium size has quickly gained considerable popularity. And lastly, the small size is, of course, a true small mouse, targeted primarily at fingertip grip enthusiasts who want an exceptionally small shape. These are just some of the new features coming specifically to the ULX competition series.
The latest generation ULX competition will now be shipping standard with our new 8K competition firmware release. This firmware has been in development and testing for some time, with every line of code being meticulously optimized to our exacting standards. Additionally, this firmware release will be available to all previous generation ULX users through Xpanel. The ULX competition with the new firmware once again boasts industry-leading latency times. With the original ULX and the introduction of our now widely used XLAT system, we set benchmarks for the performance, with verifiable sub-500 microsecond click latency across all polling rates and sub-600 microsecond motion latency. Now, with the 8K competition release, our continuous refinements have reduced our click latency even further to 319 microseconds and our motion latency to 444 microseconds, all while retaining wireless stability with strict and consistent timing across all polling rates, now up to 8000 Hz. This makes the ULX competition the most responsive and reliable wireless gaming mouse in the world. We have a strict testing protocol we take the ULX through on each and every firmware version. This includes cutting-edge stage testing in noisy RF environments like you may find when you are at a LAN with many routers and cell phones around. Here we can see just a few of the tests we do utilizing our 6-axis robot that has a precision tolerance of 0.03 millimeters. Circle tests are some of our favorite comprehensive system tests, since any noticeable drift and errors can also reveal potential sensor issues and mechanical design issues. In fact, these tests have uncovered sensor issues more than once. While many manufacturers utilize similar hardware sensors, their sensors and datasheets can have bugs in their chip code that require fixes. At Final Mouse, we are in non-stop communication with the sensor manufacturer, constantly reporting errors and making chip code updates. We also like to do single-axis motion tests in-game to look for acceleration, drift, and any RF or code issues that may affect packet delivery. Here we can see the robot conducting a quick succession of maneuvers, going from headshot to headshot in Valorant, before returning to its starting position at a different velocity and repeating the motion. In total, our testing protocol has 83 tests and measurements that must pass with 100% success before a ULX firmware is released. We're also excited to announce a game-changing new feature called Tournament Scroll, which solves an issue that has been plaguing gamers for decades. Before we dive into what Tournament Scroll does, let's briefly cover how all mouse wheel encoders generally function. Every encoder contains what is called a stop wheel, a small wheel with teeth that define the steps of the wheel. Encoders come in either 16-step or 24-step stop wheels. The issue is that even in a brand new encoder with proper debouncing in the firmware, there's always a mechanical chance that the wheel can fall in between these steps. When this happens, the stop wheel is essentially balancing on one of the teeth, and any future movement of the mouse pushes the stop wheel onto the next step when you least expect it, which triggers an unwanted scroll. While this is a rare occurrence, this can happen during a critical moment in a match. And if you have scroll wheel bound to jump, for instance, it can elicit a jump at the worst time imaginable. Throughout the years, no brand of mouse has been exempt of this risk, and there have been many unfortunate moments in pro competition. An important thing to note is that this phenomenon is totally different from reverse scrolls or noisy scrolls caused by dust and aging in a defective encoder. Tournament Scroll eliminates this risk for players that have jump bound to scroll. It works with some simple logic. The algorithm automatically filters the first step when you go and use scroll to jump. However, because a jump scroll is a burst of signals due to the flick of a scroll, only the first transition is singled out. After this initial transition, the scroll wheel processes all the signals regularly, during a given time window. This is done as to not affect the timing of bunny hopping movements. This single transition that is being filtered out by Tournament Scroll catches all occurrence of when a stop wheel gets stuck between two steps. Since falling off the balance point of one of these teeth is always just one single transition. All of this is configurable through Xpanel and can be disabled or enabled by the user. Additionally, you can choose whether you want to apply Tournament Scroll filtering to only mouse wheel up, down, or both. As a competitive player, you need to be able to trust every aspect of your mouse, even the ones you cannot see. The simple fact is no two firmware implementations are the same. Every line of code has consequences, and at Final Mouse, we obsess over the perfection of every one of these lines. The ULX competition is a testament to our pride in our product, and we hope every player experiences what it feels like to aim for greatness.